Hello, and welcome back to the Piping Pastor. Today we'll be discussing the importance of preserving the arts in contemporary culture by looking at Luke chapter 10 and the poetry of Tennyson. Well, today I am joining you with my ebony pipe that I received as a gift in the package I mentioned a few videos ago. It's an ebony pipe, and I have not been smoking it often enough, actually. I need to get the carbon cake going on this one. The carbon cake is actually rather built up on my Peterson because that's the pipe I've had the longest. And then I started working on the pipe I got from Boswell's. And I've been neglecting this one. So I need to get back to this one as well. And I'm in it, I'm smoking Elizabeth Mixture by Peterson. And rather funny coincidence, this is completely unintentional, but I am completely decked out in Charles Tyrwhitt today. This is a Charles Tyrwhitt cardigan, and then the tie and the shirt are actually also Charles Tyrwhitt. It's complete coincidence. But I will say that in terms of affordable men's clothing made well, Tyrwhitt is a great way to go. They had a shop in Edinburgh that I was able to visit a few times, and as I said, it's in terms of purchasing new clothing, um, it can get really expensive. That's why I tended to look for vintage clothing stores and so forth. Um, but Charles Tyrwhitt is really rather reasonable. And this cardigan, although rather thin, is very warm. So on a rainy, drizzly day like this, where it's not quite cold enough for a tweed sport coat and a wool waistcoat, a nice cardigan fits great. Well, I mentioned we'll be talking today about the preservation of art and contemporary culture. Um, Not to say that I'm a great fan of modern art. I know it does have it's very many devotees and people who follow it on a great deal. I'm not one of those people in particular, so I'm not here to speak about the uh, the great works of contemporary art. But I do think it is very important to defend the need for artistic expression in contemporary culture because our culture today leans very heavily on mercantilism, capitalism, gains and losses, and um, only measuring things by the metrics of value in accordance with economic patterns. But art, and when I refer to art, I'm not just talking about the mediums of like paint and clay and marble and so forth. I'm also talking about the written word. Art has an incredibly important role to play in society. In Hegel's book on art, he mentions the fact that art is the closest we get to a true expression of what is really real, the central truth of human existence, which cannot be measured by science, can be represented by art. And I think that's a wonderful way to put it. So, to that end, I think we will start with a poem. Now, I've mentioned before that I put little paper marks in books when I'm going through them to know, like, oh, I really like this one, or oh, I think this one has something really important to say. And as you can tell, I've done that quite a bit with this copy of Tennyson that I have. But today we're going to be talking about his poem, "The Poet's Mind." Vex not thou the poet's mind with thy shallow wit. Vex not the poet's mind, for thou cannot fathom it. Clear and bright it should be ever, flowing like a crystal river, bright as the light and clear as the wind. Dark browed sophist, come not anear, all the place is holy ground. Hollow smile and frozen sneer, come not here. Holy water I will pour into every spicy flower of laurel shrubs that hedge it round, the flowers that would faint at your cruel cheer. In your eye there is death, there is frost in your breath, which would blight the plants. Where you stand, you cannot hear. It goes on for a bit there, and it's a wonderful poem. I highly recommend you going through it and reading the whole thing, or getting a copy of Tennyson yourself. But um, as you can tell, Tennyson is taking a particular stance there about critics of poetry, which I would extend to critics of the arts in general. And in point of fact, I think I would say not just critics, but realists. Those people whom, when they're told, "Oh, I'm going to school to major in fine arts," their next question is, "Oh, you thought about what you're going to do for money?" um, we we at one time were a society where those of money and power and influence would be patrons of the arts. The greatest painters and sculptors and poets and writers and so forth would find um, comfort and provision in those who could afford it. We've gone from having persons of wealth be patrons of the arts to be collectors of art. Art's been measured for its value. It's something to invest in, or it's something to demonstrate your wealth. And that's rather a sad thing when someone expresses the idea that they would like to learn how to be a creative writer, to go be a poet. Most people's first question is, how are you going to live? How are you going to pay rent? Poets can't make any money unless you're famous and well published, which doesn't happen for years, and so on and so forth. And what are you going to teach English at a high school and then write poetry on the side? And sadly, many of them end up doing that, and then life takes over and they stop writing. And I think something in the world dies when that happens. We lose a great deal of creativity and we lose a great deal of perspective when that happens. And you may be wondering, well, how am I going to tie this into a biblical message? Right? That's kind of the point of this channel, right? Poetry in the Bible and classic men's fashions and pipe smoking and martial arts. Well, Luke chapter 10 is a wonderful story of Mary and Martha. And the two sisters are hosting Jesus. And we can see that Mary is at the feet of Christ. As Christ is teaching, she is soaking it all in. She is listening. She is devouring his words, the revelation from God, and really spending her time focusing on the Lord. While Martha is doing what society expected her to do, which is hosting, right? Cooking, cleaning, getting stuff ready for everybody to eat. And she sees Mary, the art major, um, laying on the floor next to Jesus, just learning. She gets indignant and she goes to Jesus and says, my Lord, can you not see how busy I am? Tell Mary to get up and help me. And she's thinking that Jesus is going to jump in on her side, right? Jesus is going to be the realist, the pragmatist. Jesus is going to be the one who says, what are you going to do for money with that art degree, right? But no, Jesus lays out the truth, the importance. He says, Mary has chosen the better part. Seeking that eternal truth, seeking that revelation, seeking that deeper meaning, that is what is real. That's what we should be focusing on. Now, I'm not saying everybody should just quit their jobs and all go be poets in the mountains. No, of course not. Different people are called to different things. But we shouldn't shun people who have an artistic talent and wish to pursue it. Yeah, you know what? A brand new painter who is trying to interpret the world and engage in art may not be able to pay their rent, but the stockbroker can, or the doctor can, the dentist can, the road worker can, the construction person can, right? we should go back to being a society where we have patrons of the arts, not just the 1% giving their millions to some charity or buying up artworks, but all of us collectively as a society regaining the knowledge of the importance of the arts, regaining the knowledge of the importance of people expressing the talent that God has blessed them with. The arts are important, even today. Well, that is all we have for today. So until next time, I hope you go enjoy some art. And as always, happy reading.